What is up, Jabroni JJ back here. This time running Factsman Friday. Yeah, rough few days for old Father Time. You hate to see it. 1 minute, he's got his confidence out the roof, threatening to blow midgets if a game doesn't win. And then now he's just completely out of pocket. I've sent him a few messages, no response. But I know he's alive because indirectly, I know other people are communicating with him without issue. So maybe I found myself back on the shit list, or maybe he thinks he's on the shit list, or look, maybe he's just trying to find himself a nice, good old midget to accomplish what he originally said he would. I know some of you are like, oh, it's 12:06. Why don't you fucking show up on time for a change? How about you eat my ass for a change? Okay. I just finished a DFS show, was finalizing up some lineups, and now we're here. I know I haven't done a solo show on this channel in a while, but no time like the present. Am I right? What do we have here? Big Sam, what's up? Love the commentary. Free money this week, by the way. 49ers Bucks moneyline parlay. Be honest, don't sleep on the Dolphins. Big Sam, don't sleep on them. Bucks, you figure, get themselves together after last week. You'd figure. What's up, TDC? Kim, Gary, Pie Eater, AG. I know I'm not Factsman, right? I know I'm not going to sit here and tell you stories about myself in a negative light, right? But we're here. These games are starting. I know TCU is about to kick off in a bit, and I think the Toledo game already got started. So we have football already. I think soccer is playing today, right? USA plays Netherlands. I think Netherlands was up 2-0, I think. I know it sounds silly, but I really don't follow the sport. I can care less about soccer. And USA sucks. I didn't know they won their first group, but let's be honest. It's not like we have this added rooted benefit, and there's no Italy, so it's not like I can drive around with Mr. Bocelli playing on my car with Italian flags everywhere, right? Because Italy sucks. Now you could tell stories of facts. Yeah, Pyre, it's not really my thing. I'm not gonna sit here and try to be a version of him. This is me taking over the show, so you're gonna get me, which I'm gonna have some negative connotations about him because it's just in my nature. But no, I'm not gonna spill his beans. That's his job. What's up, Ray? Bobby? Mike? Yeah, so they lost 3-1. That makes sense. What do we like today? We got a bunch of games. I'll talk on a few that I bet. And I'll talk a little bit on the NFL, and then we'll get the fuck out of here. So let me see real quick what as you can tell, I'm not like 100%. It's not the vid, so fret not, but yeah, definitely something eating away at me. You hate to see it. Yeah, so I will say this. These two games, I didn't personally have a bet. I know my dad fired on both these games. I know he liked TCU with a small number, and I know he got Toledo at a much better number than currently exists, or that existed pregame. So there's that if you'd like. But for me personally, so I do like the Boise Fresno game to have points. I know that these teams have had good defenses all year, but they've also been pretty efficient offensively. I did fire on that first half over 26.5. I just, to me, if that game's going to go over, it's likely going to do in the first half. It's one of those games where it feels like if one of these teams gets a lead, they likely kind of sit on it. But I can see a way where it shoots out and goes over the full game total anyway. But I just preferred the first half, had a little bigger edge there, especially if Boise was the one to get a lead because they sit on a lead. God, they're kind of frustrating. But Fresno throws the ball all over the place. Where you can beat Boise's through the air. They're not bad defensively against the pass, but they're really good against the run. So again, take that for what it's worth. Feel free to, throw around some questions if you'd like. I feel like I'm going to minorly touch on these games, whether I bet them or not, but I won't touch on these 12 o'clock games because they already started. It means nothing. It's literally nothing. Troy Coastal. So that game I didn't bet personally. I think I do think a lot of it is relying on that quarterback playing. So Grayson McCall, if he plays, which this line's trending down, which makes me think maybe he plays. If he plays, this game's a lot closer than the line should be. But if he doesn't play, the backup, his offense is totally different with the backup quarterback in there. So to me, you really got to wait until you get that news because otherwise you're just playing a guessing game. Whether he plays, he doesn't, unless you have insider information. I don't. So I'm not going to act like I do. And to me, if McCall plays, line should be 3. If he doesn't, to me, line should be closer to 10. So because to me, he's worth 7-8 points versus drop off backup. So that's kind of where I see the game. It's kind of where I'm at with it. but I won't bet it until I get absolute confirmation on whether he's going to play or not. And here's the thing, right? He could warm up, look like he's going to play, and then sit on the sidelines with his helmet on all game. These teams do this all the time in college. It's so weird and frustrating. What's up, Mike? So, talked on Boise, Georgia, LSU. So, see what we're looking at with the current numbers. So, I did bet this under. The main reason was the full game under at 51.5. The reason was I don't like Jalen Daniels as a quarterback, or Jaden Daniels, either way. I don't think he's very good, and I think that he's exploited some bad defenses this year, and he's padded his stats with some rushing touchdowns. I think he had 2 hat tricks this year on the ground. But Georgia's defense is definitely not as good as it was last year. But let's not forget, last year they were a historical defense, right? So I don't even think it's fair to compare them. As silly as it sounds, I don't even think it's fair to compare them to themselves last year, because last year was just ridiculous what they were doing defensively. I think like you were 13 weeks into the year, and I think Georgia was giving up like 6 points a game. It was ridiculous. Like their defense last year was ridiculous. What's up, Mark? So I did bet this under because this has a script of Georgia potentially coming out quick, and if they get a lead, they just have no reason to step on the gas in the second half. Now, granted, the way this goes over, in my opinion, would be if LSU's offense shows up, this game's going to fly over. So I think that if you like LSU, to me, you probably like the over, because it's not like Georgia's going to score 10 points in this game, right? It's not like this game's going to be 10-3. Georgia's going to score. So I think if you like LSU, you should bet the over. Me personally, is a good spot for Georgia, all things considered. And LSU's a weird team too, right? They got that top pick receiver that they barely utilize. It's just a super weird team. And again, I don't really respect the quarterback, so definitely going to be outclassed today. But again, Georgia, I know that they have something to play for in terms of winning the game, of course, of winning the ship for SEC. But they're locked into the 1 seed. It's not like they're going to need to go silly or anything like that. I know, rushing touchdown for Toledo, looks like. All right, so what was I going to say? All right, so talked on that game. There any of those? There's another 4:00 game, isn't there? Oh yeah, UCF and Clemson. Oh, no, Clemson's the late game, but so UCF, another game where it's interesting, right? Because Plumlee, we don't know if he's 100%. I think it's pretty clear he's not. But if he's like 95%, like UCF likely wins outright today. So what I did was I did a teaser where I teased UCF up to 10.5, and I bet Clemson money line. That was minus 117 a few days ago at FanDuel. It's probably similar price now. What's up, Cody? I have to lean KSU, Cody. But I do know my dad's heavy on the TCU side, so it kind of deters me a bit from wanting. I don't like. I know we joke around, right? He jokes around about it all the time, but I don't like to bet against him ever. So and we got to pick as far as the sheet goes for our members, right? We got to pick a stand, right? So if I know for a fact I bet one side of a game, I'm gonna post what I bet. But no, I hate being on different sides than him, and it's never ideal. So that's been a fun little conundrum to deal with on a weekly basis. But it's par for the course, right? There's some, there's a lot of games, but there's also just as much as there's a lot of games, there's a little bit of games because we kind of target the same team. So there's a lot of conflicts there. But yeah, so for me, I bet UCF plus 10.5, or teased up to 10.5 and got Clemson money line, paired that at minus 117. I don't do teasers a lot in college football, but I will say I did think the lines were pretty tight this week, and you're going to see that, right? I mean, bowl games initially when they open, those lines are arguably soft at times because it's hard sometimes for bookmakers, and people think games are fixed and whatnot, but it's hard for bookmakers to make truly accurate lines when teams have played in entirely different conferences all year. Strength of schedule is a big thing when it comes to bowl games. As you're evaluating yards per play and offense, defense, the whole bit. But if McCall is out, to me, George, that line pushes closer to 10 in favor of Troy. It doesn't mean obviously that Coastal can't win outright. I'm just saying that's how I value it. So as for Clemson, I guess kind of roll into that game. I don't know. Drake May has played the worst 6 quarters this season over his last 6 quarters. I could even argue if it's 4 quarters, but he didn't look too bad in the first half of his last game, but he's just looked brutal for 6 straight quarters. So with that said, Clemson's been an overrated defense too this year. This is not the Clemson of old. And I feel like you can compare Clemson this year to Clemson last year because Clemson last year was a good defense, really good. It wasn't Georgia historical good, but it was good. And I want to be clear, they're good this year. They're just not as good as they normally are defensively. And I'd argue they're not as good as they usually are offensively, which is why kind of Clemson's always in close games this year. And the market's going to always overvalue them because they're Clemson and Steve-O. It's Dabo. So I like the whole bit. And DJU, he's not a good quarterback. So I figured a guy like him would have developed more at this stage. He hasn't. Doesn't mean he can't. He just hasn't yet. Shipley's a good running back, but to me, running backs are off at a dime a dozen. They also lack true passing threats, receiving wise. Antonio Williams is okay. North Carolina, we know, has a lot of weapons, right? I mean, it's really a Mac Brown led team, and Mac Brown often shits his pants in these types of games. So take that for what it's worth. But look, if North Carolina rolls up 35 or 40 here, they likely win outright. Drake May hasn't been his same self. Now, granted, use that to your advantage. Maybe there's some value on North Carolina then, because maybe we finally get that bounce back type of performance from him. Josh Downs, obviously one of the better receivers in D1, but he plays for an offense that targets the shit out of him, so that helps. And North Carolina's been getting healthier offensively. They did get, what's his name, Antoine Green back. That's going to help. But yeah, so for me overall, all things considered, it's just a tough game, in my opinion, for Clemson to lose. Clemson has been a team all year that has struggled in many games, especially when games become shootouts. But North Carolina's defense is so soft that this should be a game that's, I don't want to say dominated in the trenches, but it should be very well won in the trenches for Clemson. Will Clemson's playmakers be able to use that to their advantage all game long? We'll see. But it just would be hard-pressed to believe Clemson loses today, just because I got the line a few points off as well. So, and maybe that's a little prior for me. I do overvalue priors at times. We're deep into the season now, so you almost don't have to look at it that way. But yeah, so George, if he's definitely out, like I said, 100%, that line should be closer to 9.5. All right, so talked on Clemson. What's the next game? Next game, there's one more game, right? Michigan, Purdue. So a shame with Blake Corum, right? Was having a tremendous year. I know this might be a bad take that you guys, I just personally hate when they even think about giving a running back a Heisman trophy. I know they've done it, I think, a few times over history. Just the position is so driven on a good offensive line. Like a good quarterback can make up for holes in your O-line and can make good decisions and throw into tight window. Like a running back, it's like, man, like if you look at a lot of the runs that these guys have, like a lot of them are just gifted. Like obviously they're superior athletes too, right? But like a lot of these runs, they're just like handed to them. You hit the hole, and the second level is non-existent sometimes in college. It's just a freebie position based on how well the guys in front of you are blocking. I'd argue the same thing about the NFL, but for me, running backs I'm at least this means more likely they're going to give this to a quarterback this year. Not to say running backs don't deserve it. I want to be clear, but I just think the quarterback is just a much more valuable position. And that's speaking objectively. So, but with that said, this game, so it sucks, right? So Donovan Edwards gets the start. And if you guys don't think running backs are so reliant on offensive line, just look at what Edwards did in his last game. What did he go for? 40 burger fantasy wise? Just had a tremendous game. And that's what you would expect from that. Michigan's O-line is tremendous, right? Their defense is tremendous. Finally, Harbaugh kind of overcoming the hump of losing big games. So kudos to him. His team looks well polished. It's a shame with Corum because I do think Edwards is a downgrade. Just don't think it's going to be noticed that much. But all that said, no take for me in the Michigan game. I think the line's right, about 17. Makes sense. Michigan could score. Michigan could win this game by 40 today if they want. Purdue, which does show upside passing the football with O'Connell, Charlie Jones, Peyton Durham, the whole bit. But no, for me personally, I think it's a really tough spot to ask O'Connell to lead this passing offense because like Maccabee's been good at running back for Purdue, right? But man, it's just going to be such a trenches nightmare. It's a much bigger trenches nightmare than the Clemson game, like for sure. But it's going to be a trenches nightmare, so it's an avoidable spot for me. I think the line's pretty fair. All right, so I'll briefly touch on some NFL spots that I liked this week. I did bet the Packers Bears over 44.5. This was under the assumption Justin Fields will play. I don't fully have that news yet, but I presume he played. I think he practiced yesterday. Could be wrong. Just confirm real quick for the sake of this video. I think he practiced full on Friday. Let me just see. You guys can confirm in the chat for me if you have the information, but I do think he practiced in full on Friday, which is usually like a pretty good barometer that he's gonna play. Yeah, and it looks like he's on track to start on Sunday. So for me, does Fields get a little bit of a sophomore slump? I'm calling it a sophomore slump. It's not true, but a little bit of a slump because um, he's had a few good games and had to sit a game. But I do love the over. You got a Packers offense that's finally starting to figure themselves out. They have a great weapon in Watson, right? And Rodgers should be back too, I believe. So maybe this was more of the line opening what it did soft because you had two quarterbacks questionable. But I would assume Rodgers plays. I mean, obviously there's talks on them kind of sitting him with the playoffs being out, right? But I think Rodgers said he plans to play. So to me, that makes a lot of sense for the game to go over. So that's where I fired on it. I think the number's a bit soft, to be honest. I think you have a Bears offense that's been running really efficiently with Fields. Packers defense is strong and soft against the run, and it's where the Bears have had a lot of success, especially with Fields' legs. And the Bears defense has been not good all year, and you got a Packers team that's finally figuring themselves out. So yeah, that's a little too late for the Packers offense, though, right at this point in the year. But that's where I'm at. I also bet two teasers this week. I did look at this week, just like college, as a tough week. And I don't like to force bets, so you're never going to see that from me. But, man, this was a pretty tough week overall. But I do think there's some spots that make a lot of sense. So I bet two teasers. One of the teasers I bet was Titans plus 10.5 and Dolphins plus 10.5. I think you have two teams that, first of all, don't lose a lot of games by this number. I think the Titans have lost one game by double digits all year. And I think the Dolphins have lost one game by double digits all year, I think. Let me just confirm that. I'm very confident the Titans only lost one game by double digits all year. Let me just confirm on the Dolphins for a moment. One game, two games. So Dolphins lost two games by double digits this year. They got blown out by the Jets, but I think that was with no Tua, I'm pretty sure. And I think Tua got hurt in the Bengals game. So anyway, yeah. So I think that the Dolphins don't lose games by double digits when Tua plays the whole game. So, and I think you mentioned it too, Ryan. I think you mentioned it too, Ryan, that they're actually undefeated when he plays. So, take that for what it's worth. I mentioned it as well, George. Like I think this teaser for me in college, this might be the second teaser I've done all season in college. The sport's too volatile, right? So you do 6-point teasers in college. It's just not the same as doing the NFL. Even if you move it through key numbers, it's not the same. So yeah, I did the alternate teaser with the money line and the excuse me, and extending UCF up to 10.5 because I think they're super live if Plumlee's healthy. And it gives me a little extra baggage of wiggle room if in the event it doesn't work out. Separately, hold on a second. Separately, what do we got here? Hold on. Separately from that, so I also teased the Bengals to 7.5. I was able to save a little money there instead of going to 8.5. And I teased that with the Rams and Seattle under 46.5. So 44 is a bigger key number in college totals. But 46.5 is not terrible either. And I could have went to 47. 47.5 is really just not 47 is a decent number, I guess. So, but again, every point you go up, the VIG's going to move up on your teaser. And I don't like to bet a lot of heavy VIG bets anyway. Because again, I know people like say that they know that this happens. But like when you buy points in sports, like do realize this. Like whether it's NFL, college football, I guess it's a little separate conversation on teasers. But when you buy points consistently, especially on hook numbers, like hook numbers in NFL, like 3.5, 7.5. When you're buying a line from 6.5 to 7.5 or 7 to 7.5, do realize books would not give you the option to buy points if it was not in their favor, right? So you're buying points and they're going to make it, it's going to be a lot extra. You're paying a lot extra. First of all, you're paying VIG to begin with, but you're paying extra VIG that the books offset on that value. So just keep that in mind. Like people that buy points, I get it. It's like insurance. I'm not going to sit here and try to act like, that there's no value in it. There's obviously in situations there's value. But if you're consistently buying points off hook numbers, like you're just paying unnecessary VIG. Like, again, unless that line lands perfectly for you, you've made the wrong decision doing it. And I do ask you, anybody that's ever done it, I do ask you, how many times has buying the 1 point for you, how many times has it worked out for you? And how many times has it resulted in you paying an extra 15, 20 cents on a number for no reason? The answer to that question is probably going to be super simple for you. So, like I said, just take that in mind. I don't. That's why I basically never do it. Granted, if it's a gift line, sure, I'll take it, but basically never do it. And in regards to this with the double teaser, I just the Rams are a team right now. They're a team right now that has all their defensive starters in, and they have all their offensive starters out. This is why none of their games shoot, right? Now, Seattle can definitely expose this team's defense because Geno Smith's been good, but it does appear like, dare I say it, like Geno's maybe a little coming back to earth a little, just a tad. He was on cloud nine for quite a bit that year or this year. So, just keep that in mind, or I kept that in mind. So ultimately, that's why I wanted to extend this number past 46.5. Man, it's just, I know Seattle's defense hasn't been good, but man, if they let this kid, what was his name, Perkins, the dual threat running back for the Rams, if they let him run all over them, like that's brutal. But, all things considered, I did like the under there. So pushed it up to 46.5, got the Bengals 7.5 in a game where Bengals are playing some of their best football. Looks like they're going to get Jamar Chase back. Burrow's been incredible. I get it. The Chiefs have been an absolute machine this year. But the Bengals aren't afraid of them. We know that. So, yeah, I like the idea of getting the Bengals up to a one-score game. I could have took 8.5, but I would have paid more vig for it, and I didn't want to. So those are the teasers I merged. That's what I did. I'll probably add one more NFL game for tomorrow because I usually do bet 4 or 5, but I'll wait to see if lines move favorable for me. Won't force anything. Geno was on the Millie Maker team. Yeah, but Big Sam, he was on the Millie Maker team, but I don't think he had the most points. I mean, yeah, he was on the Millie Maker, but I think there was 3 other quarterbacks that outscored him. Didn't Herbert outscore him anyway? I mean, yeah, his price was $6K, but I'm pretty sure Herbert alone outscored him. I know that. Maybe somebody else outscored him. He also had the benefit of overtime, which helped. LOL. But anyway, so yeah, I look at it like Geno's going to play a good defense this week. So yeah, I think 46.5 makes sense to fire a tease that under. What's up, Corey? So that's it. Wrapped up college football, NFL. Look at that. 25 minutes in and out. So look, other than that, folks, I wish you all the best of luck, whether you're gambling with DFS, gambling with college football, NFL, betting, the whole bit. I can almost guarantee my father will be back Monday. And he better have a midget with him, that's for sure. But all things considered, look, I hope you guys enjoy your weekend. Shitty weather up here in the Northeast. I feel like shit too. So it'll be good for me to kind of rest and relax, get myself a little better. But yeah, needless to say, enjoy the weekend, gamble responsibly, stay safe. As always, folks, run pure. I'll be back tomorrow talking a little DFS with our members tomorrow, Run Pure Sports. So yeah, if you enjoyed that, obviously head over to us. Free show before it with some other studs that talk DFS as well. A lot better than I do on Run Pure. So take that or enjoy that. But yeah, other than that, folks, thanks for joining. Thanks for the commentary. Love you as always. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.